Hey everyone! I'll get pain-free and intimate to join. Oh, that was so quick. Hello.
Hi. Hi,
How's it
Bianca. How are
going?
you? It's
Good.
going really well.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It's,
no worries.
it's a good morning to you. You're outside. I love that.
Yes, the sun is shining. I've got the trees behind me. And you've got, it looks like a sun above your head or something.
I've got my biggest fan right here supporting me.
Oh. Oh my gosh, I love that. It like looks like, how those goddesses have that like beam of light.
Yeah, like a crown.
Yes, I love that. Beautiful. All right,
Thanks.
let's get stuck into it. So if you want to just give like a brief introduction about yourself, your healing journey and overcoming vaginismus, and what is vaginismus? I know some women probably don't know what that is, and if you can give a bit more like of an insight into all that.
Yeah, how amazing would it be if somebody out there listening today creates like a connection moment of like, oh my goodness, I may be experiencing this.
Yes.
Vaginismus is this body response. Now, so often we hear of vaginismus being referred to as a sexual dysfunction or a
Mhm.
condition, and I want to throw all of that away
Mhm.
because as soon as we have a sexual dysfunction being labeled on us, guess what? We actually associate ourselves as being dysfunctional, and this is so far from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, like
I
we're
like to,
broken and like something's severely wrong. Yeah, I totally get that.
yeah, like there's something to fix.
Mhm. Yeah.
Vaginismus is a body response in which the pelvic floor muscles involuntarily contract,
Mhm.
creating a impossibility to any sort of penetration,
Mhm.
whether that means that it's completely, not possible in the moment or it is extremely painful. I
Mhm.
like to explain this as the feeling of having a knife that was just warmed up above the fire and then stuck inside of you.
Oh my gosh.
And that is probably the closest to the kind of pain that I could explain with words. But anybody out there that is listening right now and can relate to this, yeah, that's what it feels like. And
Mm.
vaginismus really is a body response that tries to protect us. It tries to
Mhm.
protect us from what we perceive to be a dangerous situation that we're in. And hence, it really is this friend of ours, but unfortunately is also so frustrating because we absolutely want penetration. We want to have penetrative sex with ourselves or
Yeah.
with a partner, but the body is not cooperating. And it feels like
Yeah.
we're just on two different planets.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. The way you've explained that is just it makes so much sense because like I kind of understood it, but it relates so much to vulvodynia as well. Like I know they're kind of different, but it's all interlinked about how the mind and body like disconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you explain vulvodynia in this way, like in terms of
Mm.
equating it to what it feels like? Because I imagine there's a lot of similarities as to what vaginal.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When I first was feeling the pain, it was like initially it felt like a fire in my vagina. Like it felt like, you know, chilies marinating in my vagina. Like it was
Mhm.
just like the little chili seeds like were just in there and it was just burning and burning and I just couldn't understand why. And like it just was so like my mind couldn't comprehend what was happening. Like I just yeah, it was awful at the start. Like I would be crying at night, hysterically, like screaming into my pillow because of the pain was so bad, and I didn't know what was going on, and I just didn't think I was ever going to get better.
Yeah, those chili seeds. That is such a good way to put it.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a good way to visualize it and then like feel it because you know when you get chili on the sides of your mouth, how hot that burning feeling is. It's literally that in your vagina.
And how awful that it's the most sensitive, vulnerable, this like almost like a petal of a flower place that is so soft otherwise,
Yeah.
but it is experiencing the most incredible pain. And the only pain that has come close to that for me, I feel like I have like hair on my face, is is like a sinus infection where my head felt like it was about to explode. Still,
Yeah.
vaginismus in some way was worse.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I experienced that.
Mhm.
And upon the first time I tried to have penetrative sex with my boyfriend at the time, it felt like a wall, as
Yeah.
though it was just, there was just no ability for there to be any space there.
Mhm.
The first red flag that I had noticed in my life was trying to put in a tampon where it felt like the
Mhm.
same thing. A lot of us experience this thing of like wondering, do I even have a vaginal opening? Because it's
Yeah.
really
Wow.
possible that I don't. I had this very real thought of like, hey, is it possible that I don't have a vaginal opening?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Someone
Yeah.
just said stress is a Manny trigger mostly if it comes from my partner, then I feel it right away.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it can kind of flare up in different contexts where you might experience a little bit more relaxation and openness when
Mhm.
you are engaging in solo sex, for example. But that as soon as a partner is involved and penetrative sex is on the table with another human being, guess
Mm.
what? Our body wants to protect. Because all of a sudden we're in this space of needing to surrender to another person is scary. Being in
Sorry,
the
it's so
no,
windy.
oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, when someone else is involved, that like creates this other element that like makes you stress even more because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna enjoy this. I'm not gonna receive pleasure. I'm gonna tense up. I can't communicate. It's all these factors. Um, yeah, so I can totally relate. Will you save this, please? Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely be saving this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think caused your pain? Like, what caused your vaginismus, do you think, personally?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And I can probably talk about this for hours. Probably the most valuable thing to share are some of the themes that we may not think of as clearly about as being
Mm-hmm.
relevant to this body response.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, some of the obvious may be a sex education that was not nourishing. And I
Yeah.
believe most of us on this planet have received a terrible sex education that was
Yeah.
founded in fear. It was
Mm-hmm.
founded in like, you got to protect yourself from STDs.
Yes.
You don't get pregnant. And
Yeah.
what is the best way not to get pregnant is to not allow a penis who has the potential to ejaculate and get us pregnant inside of our body.
Yeah, it's scary how they put it. It's very like, you know, like Mean Girls, pure example, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so that's one layer of it. And absolutely for me, I had received a sex education in some way. I am more lucky in that way compared to many other people where sex was this thing that was completely silent. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, something that is silent in our introduction to it becomes non-existent in our life. It takes on a
Mm-hmm.
layer of silence that actually doesn't allow for exploration of our sexual desires, pleasure in our body, and we become dissociated to our body in that way.
Yeah.
Hence, we shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect to course can be, and trigger warning here, can be sexual abuse, molestation,
Mm-hmm.
and the toxicity in which we actually um, experience our first sexual experiences kind of layers into the rest of our life, and our pelvic floor muscles tighten, helping us to protect ourselves from that same pain that we had experienced before. Naturally, vaginismus may occur from this. You know, sometimes after a pregnancy, this may be secondary vaginismus that we have been able to have penetrative sex in a pleasurable way before, but then something changes and our pelvic floor muscles become hypertonic and tight. But a really interesting theme that I like to discuss is this theme around finding the masculine and feminine dynamics in a particular way in life. Where if you have ever had a masculine figure in your life, assuming that this is also the gender of your desired partner, and if that masculine figure has been scary in any way, whether it was your father who may have been abusive, or there was anger management issues in the family coming from a male figure, that may have created a subconscious understanding around the masculine as being scary, or simply as being non-nourishing, as being almost like unpredictable in ways. And then we move into a relationship with a man, for example, and although we consciously trust them, although we consciously feel like I should feel safe right now, on a subconscious level, there's still this layer of like, whoa, I need to hold my space. I need to keep a distance because I cannot fully surrender to the masculine energy in this moment. Not because we consciously want to, but because the subconscious is working in that way. And I remember deeply desiring to have penetrative sex with my partner at the time and being so freaking confused that it wasn't happening. And only later in my life did I discover that in some way, because of my parents' relationship not being super nourishing, there being lots of fights, lots of stress that I was processing in my body, I was holding in my body. There was that subconscious fear around the masculine.
Wow. That's so fascinating, because I can so relate to that on some level, because I went to an all girls school, and I had this like fear of men and of sex and intimacy, and it was just all like a very unknown world. And I always had a belief within my heart and soul that sex was something sacred and special, and you did that with someone you like really connected with on all levels and all like dimensions. So when I went against that belief and slept with someone who wasn't aligned with my beliefs, that's when I developed Vagina. So that's like a lightning bolt moment for me, because like I knew, there was a link and an association with, being a little bit scared of the masculine. So that makes so much sense when the masculine have treated you in such a toxic, like awful way, that you subconsciously take that on, and your whole body feels that, and it speaks to you in pain, and it speaks to you because you need to listen to that in your intuition. And wow, that's amazing.
What a beautiful insight you just made for yourself. And I'm sure on some level you were already present to this, but it probably sunk in a little bit more deeply here around the masculine. And really, our body, the way that I like to explain vaginismus is that it is actually saying our no for us. When we didn't voice our no, or we literally didn't have the opportunity to, we couldn't in that moment, our body said it for us. And in your case, there was this authentic direction and desire of like, let's make penetrative sex, or sex as a whole, a really sacred experience that needed to be based on emotional connection, like super deep presence, having like energetic alignment between two people to actually allow you to find safety in the first place, to open. And that was your authentic yes.
Yes.
Because that wasn't met, of course, due to so many good reasons in our society and the way that we're conditioned to want to perform for another person or whatever, your body engaged in this natural body response of like, well, if you're not going to say no for me, I'm going to say no for us.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Boom.
Wow. Yes. Oh my God. That makes so much sense. And because I think I'm such a highly sensitive, quite emotional, intense being, like when that boundary or line was crossed, I felt that, you know, within my soul, like I just felt so betrayed, and like I felt like I betrayed myself as well. So that makes so much sense. Wow.
I love this exploration because really what the healing journey is all about is coming to this place of authenticity with ourselves and honoring our truth.
Mm.
There is a beautiful sort of concept that Dr. Gabor Mate speaks about. And he says our highest need in the world is this need for connection and acceptance and literal attachment to other human beings. And that is our highest priority. When we feel like we need to be a certain way to get that, we do. Where our second highest need is our need for authenticity. But as soon as our need for attachment gets challenged, it's like almost not in our reach, we throw the authenticity away in order to get that love, in order to get that connection, that attachment. And hence, our authenticity goes out the window.
Wow, yes.
And the entire healing journey is going from this disconnection that we have curated with ourselves to a connection again, to like honoring our true yes, to honoring our authentic desires, the way we want to spend our days, the kind of career we want to have, not the kind of career we were told we should have to be loved or successful.
Yes.
So the healing journey of both vulvodynia and vaginismus go so far beyond the state of the pelvic floor muscles.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your whole being. You need to look at your whole mind, body, soul, spirit. Obviously, you know, the physical aspect, you need to get in touch with your femininity again, and your sensuality, and you know, there's all these little layers that you need to like peel back and dive deep in, and like you need to hear. I love the saying, you need to feel it all to heal it all.
Yeah, I love that saying too.
Yeah, it's so true. So true, because we as humans, we don't want to face it. We don't want to face ourselves or the hurt or the problems or the trauma. But that is how you get through it, is by working through it and facing it. And actually your wound or your hurt or your pain can be your biggest blessing, you know. And I say this now that I'm nearly over the other side of having vulvodynia. Like I can taste it. So me saying that, I can't believe I'm saying that.
That is huge.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Which means that you have gone into those depths that you just mentioned.
Exactly.
To get such an intimate understanding of who you are as a human, and to peel away the layers of how you have been conditioned to be that wasn't actually true to you.
Yes.
And I like to explain it as like, we don't change ourselves. We don't fix ourselves. All we actually do is we peel away the layers that have been covering our authentic self. And it's all those like layers of grime and like the masks that we have worn that we need to come into understanding, peace, and friendship with, to be able to say, thank you. I see how you have served me. I see how I actually needed you to survive in my childhood, to be safe enough to actually move forward in my life.
Yes.
So thank you. And I don't need you anymore. You can go.
Yeah. Wow. And that is like so powerful in itself, shedding those layers and realizing, you know, you were never broken, you were always whole, you know, and saying kind of goodbye to that kind of time in your life, or that identity that you created and associated, you know. I would be like, you know, vulvodynia is like my life. Like, you know, you need to disassociate that label, that vaginismus, that vulvodynia. Like, you are not pain, you are not vulvodynia, you are not vaginismus. You are, you know, you are human, and you are feeling, you know, what you're feeling is valid, and you're feeling this pain, but you are not your pain.
Yeah, beautifully said. And
Yeah.
that is why I love referring to these, you know, conditions as body responses.
Yeah.
Vulvodynia is what you have been experiencing in the last while. Vaginismus
Mhm.
is what I have been experiencing or had experienced for 6 years. And it was never a part of me. It was never me. It was never my identity. But as soon as we say, even using the words, I have vaginismus, it kind of becomes like stuck to you as this thing that you are. A
Yeah.
beautiful teacher of mine said, you know, language creates reality. That's why it's called spelling, because words cast spells. And as soon as
Yes.
we tell ourselves like, oh, you know, we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, oh, my skin is ugly, or oh, how could I, blah blah blah. We
Mm.
create that into reality and we live into that energy. And unfortunately, more often than not, it's not helpful. If we
We
spoke to
do. Yeah.
ourselves the way, if we spoke to others the way we speak to ourselves, we would get slapped in the face no more, no less than
I
a few times,
know.
right?
We are our own worst critic. We are so harsh on ourselves. We are way too hard. We would not speak to ourselves like we would our friends. Like, it's just unbelievable. And I just did this amazing course with Neurospark. I did the lightning process with her, and that's all about, you know, beliefs and your thoughts, and, you know, identifying with certain like situations, and, like, you know, your identity becoming attached to things, and like rewriting your story. It was incredibly mind-blowing, like, this course. It was just, yeah, it was like a wake-up call, like a light bulb moment. And oh my god, I'm gonna go deeper into explaining the experience of the lightning process with Bianca, who's Neurospark. She was just, it was incredible. Like, it's completely changed my life, like within an instant. Like, you know, it's just kind of changed my perspective on my life, I guess. Like, I just now know that anything is possible, and I just feel so excited, and like, so like, I don't know. I don't even have words.
I love that. And I'm a big believer that the perfect tools come across our life at the perfect time.
Yes,
And all of these
absolutely.
tools, they come back down to healing through feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing
Yes,
ourselves to experience the energies that we have either set aside, pushed away, or suppressed within ourselves so that we can actually get the message that they were meant to deliver in the first place. I
mm-hmm.
like to refer to emotions as messengers who are simply trying to teach us something. And as
Yeah,
soon as we learn that thing, guess what? The messenger gets to go on its way because the message has been delivered. So the pain starts
exactly.
to go away and
Yes.
we really heal on a deep level.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We've got a few questions coming through. Did you want to leave them to the end, or did you want to answer them now?
Yeah,
Up to you.
I'd love to scroll through now just in case it's
Yeah,
relevant right now
yeah,
to
go
the
for it.
conversation. Um, so somebody said with me, I think toxic relationship and a lot of taboos I got were part of like her cause in the experience of vaginismus or perhaps vulvodynia. Absolutely. The
Mm-hmm.
taboos of like, oh, this is not okay. And if we have an authentic desire, let's say we're talking about BDSM and kink, which I love this topic and speaking about it also in the context of surrender, finding safety and surrender. If we have suppressed this part of our being as something I'm not allowed to explore, it
Mm-hmm.
makes me weird, it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Our
Mm-hmm.
body shuts down to all of sexuality because all of a sudden we have banned one part of our sexuality. That
Yeah.
may be one reason for the vaginismus body response activating within us. And then the question was asked, could that masculine be my partner? Yes. So if there was an experience of something less than nourishing, which really is the definition of trauma. Trauma is not about the event that happens, it's about the impact of this event on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hence why like two people who grow up in the same family can have a very different experience of their sexuality, even though they experience many of the same events,
Mm-hmm.
because we simply register them differently. So if that non-nourishing, toxic experience was with your partner, yes, absolutely, this could have been one cause. And someone says, the reality is, I see a bunch of women forming a cult. The minority of women in the process usually comes from a traumatic background. Interesting. The minority of women in the process usually comes from a traumatic background. Yes, I believe many of us who experience vaginismus or have experienced trauma in our lives. It's not appropriate. I think all of these women need counseling. The masculine, something all nonsense.
I blocked that person. I wasn't resonating with me. That was a bit rude. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And I believe that all humans can use emotional healing. So yes, maybe we do all need counseling, and how beautiful that's like, boom, yes, let's do it. Then someone else says, they diagnosed me with vulvodynia, but I knew I had vaginismus. It's not the same, right? I would go see doctors and they were telling me nothing was wrong with me at one point. I thought hopeless, but I knew that I had vaginismus. Yeah, so they are different body responses, and quite often vaginismus and vulvodynia can coexist, where unfortunately the diagnosis is often not correct. And I love that you say, I knew that I had vaginismus. This is your truth, and I invite you to trust that, and kind of, check the facts against your own experience of the body response. But vaginismus is the contraction of the pelvic floor muscles, while vulvodynia may include contraction, but it really is the experience of that burning, itching,
It's more the like external, like part of the vulva. It's like the entrance near the perineum and like the vestibule kind of area. It's not more internal. Vulvodynia is more external, and like just like sometimes it can feel quite internal, the burning, but mostly it's like on the outside, and when you touch it, it just feels like hot and like like a burning sensation.
Yeah, and it can be from touch, where it's like a provoked type, or it could also be at any point during the day, whether it's upon touch, whether it's upon
if you're wearing tight pants, if you're walking, anything.
Yeah. So then somebody else said, what helped me is a drink called kava. I had anxiety as I was able to do the dilators myself, and I hope you heal. Beautiful. A drink called kava helped this person in managing and healing anxiety.
Amazing.
I have a question. Were you able to have kids even though you were diagnosed with vaginismus? Great question. I haven't had kids yet, and I plan to be a mother, and that's an exciting part of my life that is still to come. And I remember the thought that was incredibly difficult and scary for me of like, oh my goodness, what if I could never have kids?
Yeah, that broke my heart. I thought the same.
Yeah. I have a short story on this topic. I was going to a transvaginal ultrasound that was recommended by my family doctor. And looking back, it was only re-traumatizing. It was not helpful. It wasn't necessary. But of course, I didn't know better at the time, and so I didn't say no. And it was also at the time of my journey where some penetration was possible, but it was still incredibly painful. And I remember sitting through that appointment. I was bawling my eyes out as this practitioner woman was inside of me with the speculum and doing the ultrasound. It was awful. And after that horrendous 10 minutes, I was changing. I put some clothes on. I came out of the change room and I saw her there in the hallway, and she looked at me and she said, oh, don't worry, it's going to get better when you have kids. And I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that you could say right now. I mean, she was trying to be helpful in some way, but those thoughts sort of snowballed for me. Like, well, what if I never have a partner? What if nobody ever wants to marry me? How am I even going to get pregnant? How am I going to pop a baby out? And even though that was, hugely triggering, I also remember this being a really motivational part for me in my journey. To tell
Mm-hmm.
myself, like, I'm going to prove this lady wrong. It's going to
Yeah.
get better before I have kids. And yes, I will be able to have kids.
Yes, amazing. I love that. I love when you have that kind of drive, motivation to prove someone wrong, because you know your body, and like they can't they can't tell you whether pregnancy or whatever's going to help you. It's all different for everyone. So, yeah, some of the medical practitioners really have no understanding about it. Like it's just ridiculous. Ugh, but that's a whole other topic in itself.
It is.
It
And just
is.
another note on that is that it is possible to get pregnant while experiencing vaginismus, some level of that. And it's also possible to give birth vaginally, naturally, while the body response to vaginismus is still active within ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
there is a particular blog post that I could recommend on my blog about a story on this specifically. So if you're interested, just shoot me a message. Because yes, it is totally possible to have that experience even though you still have the experience of vaginismus. And
Mm-hmm.
someone said, yes, plenty of women with vaginismus get pregnant with or without overcoming it. Don't give up. One of my fellow vaginismus friends got pregnant while she lost her virginity. It's totally possible. Yeah, there's so many stories on my website too, particularly two about people that got pregnant on their healing journey together. Is it normal to get a flare right away after a discussion? And I imagine after a penetrative or dilating, yes, it's normal to get a flare right away. What would you say on that? Would you have more flare-ups in terms of pain after solo sex, partnered sex?
Yeah, that's definitely normal, because you're, aggravating that area that's already in pain, and you're introducing touch, and you're introducing a partner, and you're probably not communicating what you actually need, and explaining, I need you to be very gentle. I need this. This will work for me. This won't. Like that's a hard discussion to have in itself. Um, and I remember like even discussing pain and discussing my pain, in the earlier days, that reinforces the pain signals. So yes, even discussing and talking about it can create pain and cause a flare. And yeah, if you're not kind of setting your boundaries um, with, you know, whoever you're with, then how are they going to know? You have to actually, explain, well, this hurts, and, or, you can touch here, but don't touch here. It's all about, really listening to your body and what it needs, and then just trying to explain it, you know, as best you can.
Yeah, I love that. That communication is so key. And the only way the
Absolutely.
communication can be possible is if we first are actually present to what creates pain and what
Yeah.
feels pleasurable.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
there's a whole structure on how to create this and our own understanding, how to communicate this with a partner.
Yeah.
But totally with vaginismus, the spasming can take a whole new level after a particular penetrative attempt. And one golden rule is that we shouldn't be experiencing any pain. We have to
Mm-hmm.
stop, pause, or slow down and back up as soon as we hit a particular threshold of discomfort so as
Mm-hmm.
to avoid the cycle of pain deepening. Because each experience of pain creates more of a reason for the body to want to protect yourself from future pain. So we
Yeah. Absolutely.
racing, anticipation, tightness.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a loop. It's like a cycle. Like it just kind of repeats. And like, yeah, if you keep on doing certain things, obviously it's going to get worse. So it's learning how to kind of unwind that cycle and really be conscious of your thoughts, and you know just really, yeah, like just love yourself as hard as it is. Like your vagina is not your enemy. Like I thought it was my enemy for so long, and I would hate her. I'd be like, why are you doing this to me? Like I just don't understand, like why I would like look, literally, I'd look at my vagina in the mirror and I'd be like, why? I don't understand why. Like, why are you so angry at me? And it wasn't until I started listening and like unraveling, that's when she was like, oh, thank you, Bianca. Thank you for listening to me. And I was like, yeah.
Yes, totally. And for anybody listening who's thinking like, well, I can't even look at my vulva right now. I do not want to. There's no desire. It feels gross. It feels like this place that is off limits. Also, that is a very common and normal experience. I was like that as well. Experiencing self pleasure for me was this no man's land topic where I didn't want to touch the skin of my vulva. It felt gross to me. I would self pleasure rarely, and it was doused in a lot of shame, and it was also above clothing, for example. And it was never that skin to skin contact because to me, my vulva was a place of like disgust. And naturally, it didn't want to open to pleasure. She didn't want to be friends with me because I was already disturbed. I was like, no, you don't belong here. I'm not going to be friends with you. And hence she shuts down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so evident of the mind body connection. If, you know, you're feeling that way, then yeah, your body actually responds to it. So, you know, it is so real. Like it is like, you know, at the start of my journey, I was like, oh, it just didn't make sense to me. Like it took me a few years to really understand, you know, why my body was doing this. So, you know, there's lots of resources and stuff out there. You just have to find them and yeah, kind of yeah. I dove deep into research for so many years. It kind of sends you down a rabbit hole sometimes. Like it can be great, but it can also, because there's so many different options and opinions and treatments out there, you're just like, oh my god, where do I start?
Yeah. And in my opinion, starting with emotional healing is the way to go. A foundation of pelvic floor relaxation exercises just to get the ball rolling with the physical healing journey, but definitely not dilating like we are prescribed to do 9 out of 10 times coming to a, for help in our medical system. I tried it. I poked myself with a dilator unnecessarily, caused myself a ton of pain, deepened the cycle of pain, and only made my journey longer and more painful.
Yeah.
So, anybody listening, like, if you're dilating and it doesn't feel right, there's a reason it doesn't feel right. It's not supposed to happen just yet. There's other layers of the onion that need to
be. Yes. And I had my physio would be like, just, you know, get the dilators and start doing the dilating. And I was never ready. For years, I was just never ready to go down that path. And I still haven't done any dilators or dilating. Like I have crystal pleasure ones and stuff like that, but dilators kind of scared me. It was like this, like, oh my god, I can't believe that I have to literally work like from each little size up to actually have something inserted in me. Like it was almost like I don't know. It was a very big trigger for me that I just couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept where I was at. Couldn't accept the condition. I couldn't believe I had to do this. It was like deep, I don't know, shame and like anger toward my body and anger toward the experience and anger toward, it was a lot.
And then what do? We shame ourselves for not following the instructions that were given to us and for not being there yet, for not being ready. And we just only add layers of frustration with ourselves.
Exactly.
A really massive part of this journey and what this journey really is all about is coming to a place of self-love and accessing kindness and compassion towards ourselves.
And absolutely. Yes, trust. Oh my gosh. Like trust within your, you know, soul and like your body and listening to it. If you don't have trust with yourself, how are you gonna have trust with others? And you know, I so believe if you don't have love for yourself and like don't respect yourself, your boundaries, your values, how are you supposed to find that in somebody else if you don't even provide that for yourself? everyone's a reflection and a mirror of you. And I've learned this the hard way through relationships that haven't worked out. It's because they're not, I don't know, it's like the love you're looking for is within you. Like, yeah. That's a whole other topic as well.
And how many of us are givers? We give, we take care of. We had to take care of our parents' relationships in many ways.
We don't put ourselves first.
Yeah, and what did we not learn how to do? We didn't learn how to receive.
Exactly, and
if we were supposed to receive, or if we were going to receive, there was like a condition to that receiving, that I'm going to receive, but only if I'm going to give you something right back to make up for it. Yeah. That like my receiving was not okay to just be. I needed to give.
Yeah.
Including receiving compliments. Many of us aren't able to wholeheartedly receive a compliment just yet, with no obligation of giving a compliment right back or minimizing the compliment we received. So a really huge part of the process that I help people find within themselves is this ability to receive, and not erotically first. Like, we first start with aspects of our everyday life, and then we move that into finding safety within receiving pleasure in an erotic context.
Yes. Wow. You are like, I don't know, you're like an epiphany for me. Like, you make so much sense, and like, oh my gosh. I'm just mindful of the time because I know it cuts off within an hour. So if you want to, I don't know if there's any other more questions, or there's a few more questions I'd like to ask you as well.
Yeah, I'll just read this comment here to make sure everybody is heard.
Yeah.
I feel then the vagina in fire and the hot mess inside cutting. It's always when my partner will hurt me mentally. Yes. So you're saying that you're feeling this physical manifestation more strongly when your partner hurts you mentally. And that is totally the case. Yes, because there's so much desire to protect ourselves from the outside circumstances that there's more tightness, there's more constriction when you don't feel safe with your partner. And if there is pain being done there in an abusive scenario, that is even more complicated to deal with. But I want you to know that it's possible. It can absolutely be navigated, and it may take some brave decisions on your part, depending on what feels right for you. Yeah, you're very welcome. And someone said, I had IVF and it was a rough experience. The daughter's totally worth it, but it was not easy. Yeah, I honor you for your bravery with that process. I haven't experienced it myself, so I cannot relate on a first person basis, but oh my goodness, I have heard stories, and it is amazing that you brought a person into this world despite everything it took of you to actually do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel proud of you. I feel proud. Yeah. Who said that? I think Venus, maybe. Yeah, amazing. You go, girl.
And someone else said I had a similar experience to that. Yes, a lubricant, and that did not help. One day I ran out of my lubricant, so I ended up using Moroccan hair oil. Yes, it's for hair only, but it helped me ever since. That was my lubricant. So far, I've been doing great. Cool. I'm glad you found that worked for you. And I invite you to just double check on some physical aspects of it. But if it is not causing irritation, that is all right. But oh my goodness, is that your bunny?
Yeah, this is little Leo.
Oh, so cute.
I just get everyone to say hey to little Leo.
When it comes to that, I just want to make a note here, because it's very important that we're looking for a particular pH and a particular osmolality when we put something inside the vagina to make sure the vaginal flora doesn't reject it. Yeah, someone says, please don't use hair oil as lubricant. It's for pH. Yes. I agree, and I invite you to explore some options. So coconut oil-based lubricant or straight up coconut oil or olive oil instead. They have natural ingredients that won't harm you. If you're looking for that whole exploration of what to look for in a lubricant, just shoot me a message. I'll send the link to this blog post that I wrote on this topic.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that's it.
Amazing. Okay. I feel like we've covered quite a lot of like the questions I wanted to ask you. Um, did you always want to help women once you were healed?
I had no idea that this would be my life right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely no clue, even at the point at which I had pain-free penetrative sex. And I want to note that when I had pain-free penetrative sex for the first time, I had only begun my journey of actually embracing my sexuality and my authentic erotic self.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea this needed to be part of the process. And looking back, it's quite surprising that I was able to have penetrative sex not going through that journey. And so it took some time after the fact to actually come into a place of confidence with my sexuality. And it was later, after I decided to explore this avenue and leave the corporate world, that I'm like, wow, this is something I can make a huge difference with, and
Absolutely.
this feels right. But
Yeah.
I didn't even think it would be my role in the world, even at the time I was having penetrative sex for the first time.
Wow. Wow. And look at you now. Sorry, the wind is so crazy. But yeah, look at you now guiding women and being a light and a hope, a beacon of hope for women is absolutely incredible. I feel like this is like your, obviously, do you feel like it's your soul's purpose to do this work?
I do. And
Yeah.
I'm open to that evolving and changing. And also the importance of having a full team of people to support you, right? In
Absolutely.
some
Yeah.
way we can look to one person and say, this is the answer. And perhaps this is a massive part of the healing journey. And I'm all for incorporating certain medical professionals that are versed in vaginismus, pelvic floor physiotherapists.
Mm-hmm.
I never had the pleasure of working with one. And I know that there must have been purpose to this because I needed to make all the mistakes. I needed to go
Yeah.
down dead ends and realize for myself like what works and doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, a team to support you, including me, if that resonates, is amazing.
Yeah. Beautiful. And last question. What would you say to yourself looking back to where you were at the start of your journey to where you are now?
That's a great question. What would I say to myself? I think the thing I would say to myself that made the most difference, and I don't know if I even would have believed myself if I said it to myself, but if I could really transport the feeling of, it's this feeling of you are not alone, that would have made such an impact. If I could actually feel that I wasn't alone, that would have given me so much more fire and desire and like peace with the journey.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel that community is so important in this process. Going through the
Absolutely.
healing as a group
Yeah.
or one on one, but like a group adds a whole other layer of togetherness that is crucial.
Yeah. Absolutely. I felt the same way. Like at the start of my journey, I just felt so alone and I just wanted to relate and connect with women going through this. And I just wanted a space where we could share and just, you know, connect and, you know, kind of find the missing puzzle pieces with each other's stories and kind of fill in the gaps. And this is like I became kind of, I know it's cliche, but I became that person for myself. I became my own hero and I started, you know, the community and I reached out to women and I reached out to you. Like, I feel like so proud of myself and I feel so proud of you and all the women alongside this journey with us, you know. They're such beautiful, strong warrior women who deserve all the pleasure in the world and live a beautiful, free life, you know?
I am so proud of you and this community that you have created, bringing in voices of hope, right? On so many different facets of this healing. And every single one is so valuable in a way, right? Like whatever resonates for people, the one thing that resonated today, I invite you to take that away and embody it. Put it
Yeah.
into practice.
Yes.
Have it make a difference in your life. And it's one step at a time that the healing takes place. One day you're going to look back at yourself and you're going to be like, I cannot even fathom how I'm here right now.
Yes.
It's the little steps that actually created the cumulative difference that feels unreal. But when you
Yeah.
have that penetrative sex and it feels incredible, and when you also don't feel like you're attached to that as a goal, whatever that intimacy goal is for you, like whenever you reach that and it feels like, yes, it's all
Yeah.
going to be worth it. And you deserve
Absolutely.
every single little
You
minute
do.
of
You
pleasure.
do. Pleasure is your birthright, you know. You deserve every bit of it, every inch of intimacy, love, and just to feel safe and seen and heard and held. You deserve it, you know. You deserve it. You are worthy of that. You
Yeah,
are enough, you know. You are not broken, you are whole. You are still you.
totally.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Like, this talk, this conversation was absolutely beautiful. It's like what my heart needed at this time, like right now. And I hope this resonates with so many women. And you know, I just, yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
You are so welcome. And thank you for having me. Thank you for
Yes.
bravely putting this message out, being in the thick of it yourself. That
Yeah.
is a deeper level because I don't remember ever having this message while I was still in it. So I applaud you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just want to give you like a hug right now, like through the
Hello.
screen. Oh my gosh. All right. So you have a beautiful day. I mean, night. Is it night there?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't even keep up with the times. But yeah, have a great night, and definitely we need to keep on connecting and sharing. And I feel like one day I want to like have all these women that I've had on my lives like up on stage in a beautiful, I don't know, retreat, and we're all just kind of guiding women, and it will be incredible. So
That sounds incredible.
yeah, amazing. All right. Well,
Okay.
lots of love, and thank you again.
Have a wonderful day. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
See you.
See you.